Iowa Sports Review is brought to you today by Daniel Marks, licensed sales representative with United Healthcare. Turning 65? Welcome to Medicare. Call Daniel at 515-519-0040, TTY 711.
Okay. Now I'm not on mute. Even better. Oh, buddy. We are 5. Now we're in frame. And and that just might have been the most dominant signature win of the entire season. 51-14 is your final score. Iowa not getting upset at Maryland, not even close, forcing 7 turnovers, benching Talia Tungavailoa, and making a statement, the biggest statement thus far. And yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of competition yet, but the biggest statement of what's going to be a huge week of college football. Oh, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And I'm so glad all of you are here to celebrate that victory with moi. My name is Adam Jacobi of GoIowaAwesome.com. This is the Iowa Sports Review, and we are live and celebrating. And first things first, can we get everybody in the chat? All those people who told me that they were the 10 out of 10 when I asked chat and I said, how worried are you on a scale of 1 to 10? We had multiple 10s pop up. Where y'all at? All right, because that was a butt kicking, and it's exactly what this team needed, and it's exactly what I told you was going to happen. All right, I didn't say, I didn't say they were going to win by 37. You shouldn't listen to me at that point. But I told you that the reason that we're scared of Tungavailoa and not scared of, say, Purdy or Penix was because those two quarterbacks had already played Iowa. We hadn't seen Tungavailoa versus Iowa. And all of a sudden, that guy with 11 touchdowns and just the 1 interception, oh boy, he's just going to carve our poor little boys up. No. This is ball hawk U. All right? It's Maryland that was stuck in the stadium with us. And so give the Terps credit. They played one good quarter of football. It was a competitive quarter of football. That's it. Because when that Iowa defense really turned it up, there was nothing Tungavailoa could do. That man was miserable before the second quarter even finished. Of course he got benched. Of course he did. Because that's what this defense does. And so once again, and this stat is just going to become more and more absurd as the season wears on. But to this day, after 5 games, nearly half the regular season, the only quarterback to make it through all 4 quarters without getting benched was the Centeo guy from Colorado State. Objectively the worst team of 5. All right, Iowa saw that challenge, rose up, and kicked the Terrapins around the field. Truly amazing stuff. Something worth celebrating. And yes, this being the Iowa Sports Report post-game show, which again, we are legally not allowed to call Hawkeye sound off, but it is what it is. We are here for your questions. We are here to celebrate with y'all on this late Friday night. I hope you're all celebrating, constructively. not destructively. We don't like to see any of that. But thanks for celebrating with us. Thanks for staying up late. David, right off the bat, Kirk scoring 50 was to tell the Big Ten to stop scheduling Friday night games. It was to tell the Big Ten a lot of things. And I think don't put us under the lights on Friday night was one of them. It was also a message to the Big Ten that this playbook is as open as Iowa wants it to be. That just because they only scored 24 against Colorado State doesn't mean this is the type of offense that's going to struggle in every other game. Oh, no. And listen, hats off to Spencer Petras, because whatever shred of quarterback controversy, even if it only existed among fans, it was never a serious thing in Iowa City, in that locker room, anything like that. The quarterback controversy, you see what I did there? That is done. All right, he's a captain for a reason. He's a starter for a reason, and he put on a show today. Even with that slow start, once they figured out what they wanted to do with that offense, he lit Maryland up. He was throwing long passes. He was throwing deep outs. He was throwing accurate crossers. That was a heck of a performance. Maryland dared him to beat them, and he beat them like the red-backed stepchild that Maryland is of the Big Ten. I guess, turtles don't have hair, right? So I was just going on the shell, the red-shelled stepchild of the Big Ten. Welcome to the Big Ten, Mike Loxley. This is still Iowa's field. And hey, hats off to all the Iowa fans that made that trip to College Park, up to and including our very own Russ WV of GoIowaAwesome.com. So he's not joining us. He is properly celebrating the victory out there in what was, hostile territory for a while. But by the end of the game, boy, those Iowa chants were louder and louder. And those Maryland fans were gone. Oh, if you don't love this, what do you love? Right? Like, if you don't love this, what do you even enjoy being a Hawkeye? Man, like, this is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Question, Trevor asks. Hi, Trevor. Why is Iowa the best football team in history? Why? Because they were the team that we watched today. They put that beat down on a team today. And I'll gladly take a win today over something that happened 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, whatever. I mean, they have not been seriously challenged. Again, like, maybe you make a case for Colorado State. Colorado State was never winning that game. And we both know it. They still haven't been challenged. And there's going to be some carnage in the top 25 this week. And when that dust settles, minimum Iowa's going to be number 4 in the league, or in the nation. Maybe even number 3. I don't know what's going to happen with the 4 teams that are currently above them. There could be a lot of wreckage happening. There might be none as well. And sure, there is that Cincinnati Notre Dame game that somebody has to win, and somebody's going to get credit for. But boy, oh boy, all of those cute little jokes that everybody else in the nation had about how, Iowa, they're just a bunch of dumb farm hicks, and they're not very explosive, and they don't do much well, and they're frauds, aren't they? Aren't they frauds once again? Nope. Not this year. Not today. David asked, did we see the best quarterback in the Big Ten playing on the field tonight? Yeah, but then Iowa benched him. No, I'm kidding. Right now, I think it's still Sean Clifford, maybe. I mean, that boy can throw, and but we also have to point out, just like with Tunga Vailoa, just like with Brock Purdy, just like with Penix, he hasn't had to face Iowa yet. And when he does, some of that shine is going to come off him in a big way. I'll just warn everybody over there in Happy Valley about that right now. That's coming. And so in a weird way, like, do I think that Spencer Petras is the most like talented, gifted arm in the Big Ten? Probably not. But Petras has one very important thing going for him, and that is that he gets to play with the Iowa defense as opposed to against the Iowa defense. So, that's one very, very bad day that he knows he doesn't have to contend with. So, I mean, right now, he's starting to look like a contender for, I'm not going to say all Big Ten first team yet, but he's going to be in that conversation. And that's a credit to the work that he's done and a lot of the passes that he threw this week. So we kind of love it. Oh, no. Joe Pick with, and he's citing Jason Starrett, I hope is his name. 105 football players had more interceptions than Tagovailoa when the game started. By the time he got taken out, Tagovailoa led the nation in picks. And I'm telling you, this Iowa defense is, legit sells them short. They're scary. They should terrify any opposing offensive coordinator. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, they played a perfect game against Maryland. They didn't. They still gave up 2 touchdown drives. But they took the ball away so often that it didn't matter. And they keep doing that this year. Right? You can expect their luck to run out as much as you want. But I think we've established by now, this isn't luck. This is something really, really good. And yes, why wouldn't we bring up the wise words of Vin Diesel or Don Toretto? I'm not going to do his voice. It's a little late in the evening for that. But yes, winning by a mile is more fun, and that's just about what Iowa won by tonight. We love to see it, baby. We love to see it. Is it okay to feel confident now? Procrastinator 66, buddy. One, yes. That my short answer is yes. Yes, with a lot more S's attached to it. But you brought up something that this is sort of a cultural thing that we, especially as Midwesterners, we sort of have to brace ourselves for things to go a little bit wrong, to go awry, for that one bad game to happen at the worst time, and blah blah blah. My request to all of you is to throw that aside, to enjoy this victory, puff your chest out, and really, really enjoy the feeling of knowing that this team is legit and they're going to cause problems for a whole lot of teams that left on their schedule. Okay? You can be pessimistic, and it's easy to be pessimistic, especially when everybody else around you is. And, it's not like any of us have lived to see the Hawkeyes win a national championship or anything like that. But even if you're right, even if you expect everything to go wrong, and something does go wrong, so what? Right? You don't get points for being right. And everyone that said, it's going to run out here, Iowa. I'm scared of Maryland. I'm scared of Maryland. You weren't even right about that. So that's not being realistic. That's not realism. That's denying yourself the pleasure of, enjoying what the season already is, of, that little, the pep in your step that you get from having a little bit of hope. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And yeah, if they lose a game, it's going to sting. But it stings for everybody no matter what. And just being able to say, well, I told you so. Where's the fun in that? We need to get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's enjoy this. I mean, man, oh man. If you weren't grinning like an idiot by the middle of the second quarter, again, I ask you, I mean, do you really enjoy this at all? Oh, buddy. I hope you can tell that I'm glowing, because I am glowing. This is fun. This is fun. Also, my AC is sort of acting weird, so it's a little bit of earned sweat too. Don't tell anybody. Nick, welcome back. Was that some of the best play calling we've seen from Brian Ferentz? Seems pretty dynamic, yeah. And a big part of that is that Maryland looked at the first four games that Iowa played and saw, again, and this is something that we had talked about on Wednesday's show, that if they aggressively crash, regardless of what their positioning was at the snap, their pre-snap alignment, regardless of all that, all they had to do was crash the line of scrimmage and force Iowa out of their comfort zone, and that worked pretty well for Colorado State. The problem is that Iowa coaches watch Iowa film too, and all of a sudden, those matchups started to open up and open up and open up a little bit more. It's not like Brian Ferentz called a bunch of trick plays. We weren't seeing whipsy dipsies and end arounds and all that. In fact, it was sort of a conservative game plan in terms of whether there's the Hayden Fry exotics or not. Didn't see a whole lot of that. And there was more long passes than I would have expected, and they went on longer than I would have expected too. Even into the fourth quarter, they're like, well, all right, if you're still going to give us that one-on-one deep, and you're going to dare us to throw it, we're going to throw it. And so kudos to Brian Ferentz's game plan for that. Yeah, I think it was an excellently called game, and probably some significant credit should be going to Kirk Ferentz too. They, whenever they would cut to Brian on the sideline while Iowa was on offense, who was he standing right next to? It was his dad. So I think there was definitely some cohesion in what they had in mind there. If Kiffin rolls Alabama, remember Florida was close. How much of a shakeup do we see? Well, Joe, once again, say hi to your dogs for me. But second, and all bets are off if Alabama loses. All bets are off because they are still the most talented team in the nation. Even if they lose to Florida, they would probably be favored against Georgia on a neutral field, something like, I don't know, the SEC championship game. But that also means that we're starting to throw around a few more losses to teams that are currently ranked ahead of Iowa. And as long as that keeps happening, and the amount of teams that are ranked ahead of Iowa is a vanishingly thin number. But as long as that keeps happening, it's only going to make the Hawkeyes look better. Now, that all said, we are still talking about AP rankings right here in start of October, right? There's still 7 more games that matter so much more to how Iowa's season is going to play out than what happens to Alabama in Week 5, right? So, we'll pump the brakes a little bit on that. But at the same time, it's not like we don't get it. It's not like we could have all 7 games of, all 7 of those games played by now. And we just choose not to, right? All we've got is the data in front of us. And so, yes, we are going to see quite a bit from that from that Ole Miss Bama game. And yeah, it's it's going to make a determination on where Iowa is in the ranking. It's not like, even Kiffin doesn't even have to roll them, right? It doesn't even have to be some 20-point win, which against Bama is a blowout. If the Tide lose that one at all, they're falling way below Iowa. They don't get the benefit of the doubt this early in the year to only head down to number 3 or so. Not yet. Not yet. If we're in the middle of November and they're still a one-loss team, probably they're earning their way back in. But not yet. Not yet. All right, Sam asks, when will these interception numbers return to the mean? Well, they have -4 against Penn State. As a math major, it's entirely possible. Also, I'm not a math major. But, again, this is something that we talked about on Wednesday's show. And Iowa's ability to force turnovers, force interceptions, even coming into today's game, was the best in the nation and had been best in the nation for a few years by now. And that's not an accident. It's not only luck. Now, I'm not going to sit here and suggest to you that the Hawkeyes are picking 5 passes off a game for the rest of the year. Although I'd love it if they did. I think it's a wonderful thing to aspire to. So by all means, don't let me talk them out of that. But yeah, I mean, there probably are going to be some games coming up where they might only get 1 pick, might only get 2, or Lord forbid they might not pick any off. Because again, some of it does come down to decisions that the quarterback makes that are out of their control. That just, like I've said before, and like somebody else who's slightly more famous than I am has said before, that's football. So, yeah, I mean, just the law of averages says that there is going to be some game coming up where, they're not single-handedly ruining the quarterback's entire season in 2.5 quarters of play. Probably not. And that is going to be a challenge for the offense to put together long drives, right? Because they probably won't be starting things off on the opponent's side of the field if they're not turning that opponent over. So they will have to sustain some drives. They will be doing it probably, or they will be in a situation where they have to do that against very good defenses. This is the Big Ten. So, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's all puppies and rainbows and book your trip to the national championship right now. But you can't argue with 5-0. You can't argue with 51-14. You can't argue with 4 quarterbacks benched. And you can't argue with the amount of turnovers that this defense keeps forcing. It's amazing. And Trevor, yes, absolutely right. It is cool that he came out throwing. And especially cool because, remember, Petras started off slow. He was, 3 for 8 for 22 yards and missing his targets. Even the vaunted duo of Brando and Tillman, who hopefully we don't have to hear again for a while. But even they could see that some of his throws were not only off target, but off target in the wrong direction. Off target in a way that was closer to the defender than it needed to be. And again, in a Kirk Ferentz offense, that's the danger zone right there. That is the sort of thing that he doesn't want to see. And so instead of saying, well, not his night, time to hand it to Goodson 30 times and see what happens, let's pack it in, they kept that faith up. They started to call a few plays with a little bit a better chance of success. And it worked. Their faith was rewarded. And that should make you feel very good about Petras because they kept assuming that he could make those throws and eventually he did. I'm sure that there's a little bit of coaching in the moment that was going on there too. It's not, just sit back and pray and keep calling plays, right? In-game adjustments are absolutely a thing, but yeah, he came out throwing and kept throwing and kept throwing and went so far off of tendency that the rest of the Big Ten has to look at that and see this isn't going to be that easy. This isn't going to be that, we know what Iowa's going to do before they even step onto the field. It wasn't that. That was a message, as I said, to the rest of the Big Ten, that this offense can do, I don't want to say whatever they want, but they have more facets. It's more dynamic than just what you would have seen against Colorado State. And Patrick, thank you for bringing this up, and welcome back once again. Probably the most concerning stat from the entire game. The defense didn't score. And they had 6 interceptions. They had a fumble recovery inside the red zone. Didn't score on any of them. What are we doing here? Cancel the season. Cancel it. We're done. We're done. Sorry, I needed these. Okay, we're back. We're back. I'm sorry. I hope you all can hear me. We're having some technical difficulties here at the home office, so I am having to broadcast on a slightly lower tech setup here. We should be back to normal soon, but so if there's a slight downtick in quality, blame Apple. Always blame Apple. This is for you, Tim Apple. DW, welcome back. Absolutely love the win. Still need work with run blocking. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm sure that that's going to be a point of emphasis for the coaches for the offensive line, because it's not like that task is going to get any easier in the next few weeks. They are running headlong into the meat of the schedule early. So, yeah, I mean, I'm worried about that too. And I know Goodson broke off some runs, and I think he was dancing a little bit too much for what Kirk Ferentz wanted. And some of our more conservative football minds might say that the worst thing that could have happened was he hit that juke pretty early in the game down there in the red zone, and it did end up in a touchdown scoring drive. But once he saw that he could shake somebody out of his boots in the backfield, he was like, well, let's try that 15 more times. And mostly it didn't work. It was very entertaining, though. And the open field juke that he put on that long reception for the touchdown, it was like watching Fred Russell out there. And I don't say that lightly, because Fred had some of the nastiest cuts that I've ever seen on a Hawkeye uniform. Maybe even nastier than Akram Wadley. But what Goodson did to that poor defender. Can we take a moment of silence in the chat? In fact, let's get some F's in the chat. Let's get some F's in the chat for the defender. Let's pay our respects by pressing F. F's in the chat. Oh, you hated to see it, but you love to see it. Trevor, we do have questions at cards. Honestly, I expected more out of Kyler Schott by now. So I sort of think that the Iowa coaches are probably expecting a little bit more. Probably. We'll see in the interviews that are coming up how they're assessing that and what's going to happen going forward. Mason Richmond also looked kind of dicey, and it's interesting because I've always said that the key to winning in the big play, or at the very least, that's the key to succeeding on offense. And you could make the case that Iowa hasn't quite succeeded on offense the way that you would want them to. even when they scored 31 points in that second quarter, which was hilarious, they did it with under 100 yards of offense. And, I mean, yeah, some of that is you can thank the defense for that, for giving them great field position after great field position after great field position. But, I mean, still, we're talking about an offense that looked good, got about 400 yards, and we like to see that. But, you know, there are teams that that this week are probably going to break 500, probably going to break 600. And so it's not as if, again, it's not all puppies and rainbows just yet. But there is some improvement that needs to be made on the line. That being said, they are talented enough to make those improvements, and hopefully we can see them week to week instead of month to month. If at the very least they can be turning their talent into production, look out. Look out. Sky's going to be the limit on that one. And Clinton, we'll get our statisticians on this. But again, trying to go all black against Iowa, you're just dressing up for your own funeral at that point. You don't do that. When are they going to learn? And I hope the answer is never. I hope these teams just keep on making that mistake, wearing something other than their colors to try to black it out against the Hawkeyes and just getting embarrassed in the process. It feels good. It feels so good. Okay? No, nobody's saying Iowa's trash, right? Unless it's, you know, Psy 2573 with 15 followers from Ames. You know, people will say a lot of things. I think the last 5 years of society has proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. People will say anything. And it's easier and easier than ever to find idiots on the internet. But I'll say this. There was not a whole lot of disparaging remarks coming out of Brando and Tillman, even before the game got out of hand. There was, at the very least, a begrudging respect for the Hawkeyes, even before what they did to the Terps. And afterwards, it was a real acknowledgement that this team has a formula that is working awesome for them. And if anybody, you know, sort of suggests otherwise, all you have to do is point at the results. And it's a 5-0 team with 5 wins of double digits. They buried Indiana from the get-go. They ruined Iowa State's Super Bowl. And all that hype that Maryland wanted, all of that confidence that they had that they were actually going to break on through in the Big Ten East, well, maybe they might. I don't know how they're going to do against the Buckeyes or anything like that. But Iowa showed them who the adults were on the field tonight. And that's going to keep happening in the Big Ten. You can mark my words on that one. So, no, there's no trash in Iowa City. Well, there's, I mean, if you go to the Penn Mall at night. I'm talking about like Marco's grilled cheese wrappers. I'm not talking about people. Don't ever call people trash. Please, please, please don't. First college football team to 5 wins. Hey, end the season right now. All we have to just call the season. Iowa leads the nation in wins. Let's hit the Bulls right now. Bang, bang. Yeah, and having to deal with a Friday game. I don't like them either. And as we said earlier, it's entirely plausible that Kirk doesn't like him. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'll take a 37-point victory anyway. And here, okay, all right. Clinton's dropping it right now. Iowa beats Penn State 27-10. Anyone disagree? Any other predictions for how that game's going to go down? Because I'm as excited as ever for that one. How can you not be? I mean, it's exactly what you want. This is the sort of game, coming up that everybody that's wearing that Hawkeye uniform is dreaming of. This is why they played in high school and as kids, and why they worked so hard to get to a D1 Power 5 developmental program level, where it doesn't matter how many stars you have, it matters what you can do. This is why they worked that hard for a game like this. So, gosh, as a fan, just rush into it as headlong as that. This is fun. This is supposed to be fun. So yeah, give me your hot takes. Let me see some predictions in the chat. Holy Moses, we've already been on for over half an hour. So okay, we'll do a little bit of a reset for those of you who are late joining us. My name is Adam Jacobi of GoIowaAwesome.com. This is the Iowa Sports Review, and we are celebrating because Iowa has thoroughly dismantled the previously unbeaten Maryland Terrapins, 51-14. This is the post-game show. Any decent post-game show, it's all about you, the rest of the fans. And if you're enjoying yourself here, why not hop on over to the YouTube page if you're not there already, and give us a little like, give us a little subscribe. Thanks to all of y'all. We cracked 100 subscribers, which is awesome in just 1 month's time. So what that does is it tells YouTube that, yeah, this community's legit. And believe me, having written about the Hawkeyes for 15 years online, I know how legit we are. And it's awesome to see that reflected in what we're already getting done on YouTube. But the more that we hit those likes, hit those subscribes, do those chats with everybody, it not only makes our own brain chemicals feel good, numbers go up, but it tells YouTube that this community is growing, and it's going to keep putting this sort of content in front of other Hawkeye fans, ones who haven't seen this before yet. So they're going to come in. We're going to keep growing what we're doing here, and that just makes it more fun to be around for all of y'all. So yeah, if you do us that favor, we'd kindly like it, and hit the little bell notification, and it'll tell you whenever we're going live. So right now we're doing 2 live shows a week, Wednesdays and post games. We normally Saturdays, obviously, but we're not sitting on a 37-point win like this. So yep, do all the nice clickies that every other YouTube channel tells you to do, and understand that it's not just so we can be selfish about it. It's so we can grow the group of Hawkeye fans that already includes you. And who doesn't want more fans to talk sports about? So, all right, that's my little spiel. Nick says, people before this is, again, I keep talking about this. Oh, they're going to lose to Iowa, blah, blah, blah. And then after Iowa dismantles them, they do, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If Iowa had lost to Iowa State, the Clones would certainly still be ranked, and probably, a top 15 team, even with a loss to Baylor. And they said, well, it was a quality loss. If they had lost to Indiana, well, what are you going to do? First game of the year. Gosh, I wish they had had Kent State instead. But, Indiana's good. They were ranked. They were ranked. They're not going to be this year for the rest of the year, but they were. Gosh, even the Maryland game, I was even guilty of this too. But you could have said, Friday night under the lights, got blackout going. They just ran into a buzzsaw. They ran into a buzzsaw. No. Iowa is the buzzsaw. That defense is the danger. How bad was Maryland's head coach? Boy, that's always been the knock on Mike Loxley, hasn't it? And it's too bad because, man, that guy brings in talent. But if there ever was a showcase of how taking care of the details is or can be the difference between a winning football team and a losing football team, look at how bad Maryland was on the small things. inopportune penalties, and there's only so much that you can put that on the head coach. But I would say that also reflects very poorly on the position coaches as much as the head coach. I don't think that their offensive game plan really evolved over the course of the game to the point where Tagovailoa wasn't throwing himself into trouble anymore. He was shell shocked. Turtle joke. But no, I mean, just the basic body language on their poor quarterback's face by the second and third quarter. He looked helpless, and that tells me that this was more than just I threw a bad pass. It's what am I supposed to do about that defense? And that's a question that coaches have to answer, right? And I didn't see any answer from Maryland's coaches. So I'm curious as to, and we're probably never going to find out, but I would love to know what sort of conversations were going on during the second quarter and during halftime inside that Maryland coaching staff. Like, how do you adjust to the fact that Iowa's defense is doing this to us again? I'd love to know, and I don't know the answer. But yeah, and that's always been the knock on Loxley is, boy, he can get some guys on the field that are dangerous. But that's always been, the knock on Scott Frost too. You can get away with just having a great quarterback and a great receiving core in the American Athletic Conference, which is just a dressed up. You can get away with it there. But in terms of fielding a team that has a cohesive offensive line, that has defensive gap integrity, all of those things come from coaching, repetition, and putting your players in position to succeed. Iowa's coaches know that. And it surprises me that you see it so often, even at like the Big Ten level, that there are coaches that don't really get that. And I think part of it is they haven't had to get that at the rinky-dink conference that they came from. Because again, like you can win at UCF, you can go undefeated at UCF just by having a great quarterback and some flashy weapons. Because there aren't a whole lot of teams in that conference that are going to physically punish you the way that Big Ten teams physically punish you. And like the vast majority of Big Ten teams too. Scott Frost never figured that out. I don't think that Mike Loxley has ever figured that out. And just go back to Tim Brewster or the other Tim Beckman, or any number of guys that came from the MAC and just stuck up the place in the Big Ten. Why? Because they weren't taking care of the details, the small things. They weren't hiring position coaches that are geniuses. They just weren't, and ultimately that reflects on the head coach. So be thankful for what we've got here. I mean, really, be thankful, because the fact that Iowa could get, and Iowa was in the dumps at the end of the 1970s, and they hired Hayden Fry from North Texas, and then they hired Kirk Ferentz to replace him, and people weren't too happy about that, remember. But it's like they rolled double sixes twice in a row. And all you have to do is look around the rest of college football to understand what a unique culture they've got here, how much you can't take it for granted, even the level of success that Iowa's had. And we're not even talking about national championships. We're barely talking about Big Ten championships. But we're also almost never talking about those 3-win seasons, the 4 wins, 2-10, and everybody's, yelling at the coaches on the sidelines. You don't get any of that. And that's because the coaches know what they're doing. And in a world, in a sport where so many of these guys get hired on hype, get hired because the boosters with the money just want them real bad, to disastrous effects, usually. With that dominating college football culture the way it does, hi Texas, hi Nebraska, hi USC, hi Miami, I can keep going, hi Michigan. It's so refreshing to have that stability, that level of expertise, for coming up on 45 years. 2 coaches in 45 years in Iowa City. Can't take that for granted. That's awesome. And I think we really need to understand that even if there's a good hire coming after Kirk when he finally retires in roughly 40 years, but that even something that would qualify as good, it's not a guarantee that that coach is going to break 500. So let's appreciate this for what it is. Yeah. Oh, Joe, a great point, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I probably would have forgotten. Keegan Johnson and Arlen Bruce look like the real deal, and I was pumping the brakes on that earlier in the season because I wasn't really sure that they had not only the the knowledge of the playbook enough to get on the field, stay on the field, but I also wasn't sure that that was the direction that Iowa wanted to go with their offense as yet. That question has been answered. They already really trust Arlen Bruce. They trust Keegan Johnson. And yeah, it's only been 2 or 3 games for them already. But they bring that dynamic quality to the outside, even with a limited playbook. Even if it's just, well, I know you know how to run a bubble screen, go run that. Even if it's with they're only on the field 15, 20 times a game, they're put in position to succeed, and the quarterback Petrus trusts them enough to throw them the ball on some really difficult routes, and they have been rewarding that trust, especially today. Arlen Bruce looked great, and I'll say this: I think both of them look better than Reganey on the outside. And I'm not saying this to make him or his family or anything like that feel bad, but it doesn't seem like Reganey has that playmaking ability that, frankly, the team has been missing since Smith Marset and even Brandon Smith since they left. We got taken those guys for granted too, and that was a mistake. Bruce is starting to get right up there. Joe, buddy, man, we had to stay on this long. Oh, I would have been in bed. I'm kidding. But welcome back as always. Hope you are celebrating. Hope you're happy. I know I am. And okay, part of the technical difficulties I have mean that I haven't seen any tweets about any of the game. Like the browser on my computer just doesn't work. Again, like thanks Tim Apple. So if you guys could pop in the chat and tell me like what's wrong with the visitors locker room, I would love to know this. I'm learning this in real time while we're live. I want details because it's especially rich for Iowa of all teams to be complaining about the visitors locker room. But if there's a situation that makes it like genuinely uncomfortable for them, not like pink toilets or whatever, but if it's not secure, if there's reason to believe that what they're talking about can be heard outside of the walls, yeah, I mean I think that's a legitimate thing to be upset about. And I don't know if any of you have had to take cold showers in the stadium because their hot water isn't working. That is unpleasant. And fortunately, it looked pretty warm there at Maryland, so it's not like that was happening after a 40-degree game. which, again, ask me how I know. uh, so at the very least, I don't worry for them per se, but I would love to know what it is that Kirk was upset about. Because also, this isn't their first time at Maryland. So you would think that the opposing locker rooms there are not a surprise. You would think, but again, I'm flying totally blind here, and I would love to know more. Could one of our defensive players be up for Heisman? It would be fun, wouldn't it? I think a lot of things have to go right. First and foremost, Iowa would have to be a top 5 program. Or at that point in the season, they would have to be ranked in the top 5 and comfortably on top of the Big Ten, because otherwise, there's virtually no chance for defenders to even get on those radars. And it's even sort of a bummer because it's not like individual defenders are allowed to sort of take credit for overall defensive performance, right? It's not that Danny Werfel was the most talented passer in the NCAA the year that he won it, but he was running the Steve Spurrier offense. So, of course, he had good numbers, and Florida had good numbers. And so, obviously, we'll give that boy the vote. But somehow that doesn't translate into defense. So voters need to see outrageous, gaudy stats like Ndamukong Suh with, 20 sacks that year, or Charles Woodson playing on both sides of the ball, or this or that. And so far, it's not like, I'm not even sure if there's an All-American on the defense. Jack Campbell's up there. Van Valkenburg is up there, but neither of them came in with the hype that a defender usually needs preseason to crack their way into that legitimate All-American hype. And I mean, Campbell makes a lot of tackles, makes a lot of plays, but other than that, there isn't that super big stat hog happening. So, I mean, if you're holding out hope that we're going to see a Hawkeye in the Downtown Athletic Club in December, I think if anyone, it's going to be Goodson, and I don't think this is a knock on Goodson, but I don't think that's going to be happening either. At the end of the day, defense is a team activity, always has been, and their 11 that they put on the field at any given time is ferocious, regardless of what the national media says or doesn't say about it. And Trevor's right. This is, tip drills are a part of coaching, but they're a part of coaching at any level of football. Anyone can run a tip drill. It's about getting yourself in position to make those plays to begin with. So whatever reads or cues that these guys have, the tip drill just takes care of the end of it. Either that or Phil Parker has the most incredible proprietary tip drill I've ever seen. And maybe that's true. Who am I to say it's not? Okay, I was wondering this, and again, due to technical difficulties, did not have access to the Iowa Media Guide. But I was wondering how close. In fact, a good friend of mine had asked if this was a team record, and the fact that this is the most in the last 25 seasons. Usually, whenever ESPN says that, it doesn't say, since such and such a game. It means that there's incomplete records beyond that. So this might be the most in more than 25 years. I'm not sure it's going to be the team record just because, one, I'm not able to look that up. But two, more importantly, college football was weird for so many years, for decades, just a weird sport that barely even resembles this now. So I'm sure that if you go back to like 1913 and they're playing Chicago pre-med and they had 17 fumble recoveries. Okay, all right. Like some records, you just sort of have to adjust for like post-war college football, and some of them we're just not going to get a good answer just based on what the record or what the record keeping was or wasn't at that point. So yeah, but regardless of what happened in the 60s or 50s or whatever in games that happened before any of these players were born, they had 7 takeaways. They made Maryland miserable, absolutely miserable. I'm bummed out about the fumble recovery. Legit bummed out about that. And I think anybody, um, worth their salt would also say, you don't want to capitalize off an injury. And I hope that young man is okay. I was fortunate to not be watching the replay. As soon as they started to play back, I'm like, because I don't do injuries well. But the fact that they mentioned that it was something that they weren't going to show again, that's all I need to hear. That's all. And gosh, him telling his teammates that he's going to be back while he was getting carted off. Again, like, yeah, they're the opponent, but you have to feel for him in a moment like that. So prayers up to the young man if that's a thing that you do. Hopefully he gets back on the field soon. I know that, Giannis's knee injury in the NBA Finals, that looked bad too. And it ended up that his ligaments were okay. And against any of my judgment, he actually not only played in the finals, but put in one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. So fingers crossed that that's going to be the case for the Maryland receiver as well. Really, really hope so, because that's a bummer. And it's not like at the end of the day Iowa needed that touchdown off them either. If he doesn't get hurt, like, one, he's walking home healthy, which is the most important thing, and two, it just means that Iowa won 44-14 instead. So yeah, so hopefully that's the case. And frankly, I don't think it takes away from the fact that Iowa picked off 6 passes in one game. Like, that is amazing. And they weren't even like cheapies either. Those were forced turnovers. How can you not love that? And yeah, Nathan, absolutely agree. If you're making a portfolio, if Brian Ferentz is putting together his greatest hits, today is very high on that list. Maryland didn't expect what Iowa was doing. And again, it's not like it was running really tricky, convoluted stuff, or, at the very least, no exotic trick plays or this or that. But he definitely went against tendency quite often. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So it goes. But at the end of the day, they racked up about 400 yards of offense. Petrus looked like a guy who was firmly in command. And again, I'm so glad we don't have to talk about backup quarterbacks anymore, because we saw not only everything we needed to see from Petrus, but in a weird way, we saw everything we needed to see from Padilla too. And Hogan's just not there yet, if he's still third on the depth chart. And that's quarterbacks. So, each of those guys hopefully getting there and getting to start in their own time, hopefully in the black and gold too. But we can all agree, right? Like, the Petrus, maybe try somebody else. That talk is donezo, right? We can at the very least agree on that, hopefully. Go! Joe! Hey, dude! Joe Dvorak going to be a father. I assume for the first time. Boy, and yeah, so I think those cosmic vibes came to the Hawkeye sideline, and Maryland didn't stand a chance once that happened, man. Oh, dude, that's awesome. That thank you for sharing that moment with us. That absolutely made my night, and my night included Iowa, like you said, scoring 51 points and taking the ball away from Maryland 7 times. Love to see that, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for. I'm sort of speechless. I'm a little bit emotional here. You want to see a grown man cry? I might. Uh, okay, David. Thank you for the update on Lockergate 2019, 21, 2021. We had better locker rooms at UConn. While the Maryland band is marching past him. Okay, good point. And I think if he's making that point again, I'll retract what I said. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this probably isn't new to him, but just because this isn't his first rodeo with bad locker rooms, I can understand that he's going to be a little ticked off too. One thing that I would like to mention before I forget, because I'm good at forgetting, Sam Laporta, again, really good game. And the announcers couldn't say enough about him. Some of the routes that Iowa had him run, I mean, they were sort of challenging. And, it wasn't all just crossing routes and play action in the flat and this and that, although Laporta did those very well too. And really, really happy to see him make it through an entire game without being called for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. If you remember, he got flagged for quite possibly the worst celebration penalty I've ever seen. Not the worst celebration, mind you, but the fact that the referees, and I failed to mention this last week, and I forget about that, but the fact that the referees threw a 15-yard penalty flag for spinning a football, which, I mean, it's the same flag for like a crackback block, or, it's like targeting without the ejection. He got a 15-yard penalty for doing this. And so in his honor of making it, and really not only Laporta's honor, but the rest of the Hawkeyes, they scored 6 touchdowns, not one celebration penalty. Welcome to the no spin zone to the Hawkeyes. As you can see, that's a spinning football, and I put googly eyes on it. But no, you can't spin it now. Kirk said that he's going to coach his guys to not spin the ball. Congratulations. We've helped rid college football of the scourge that is taunting. Just the dumbest flag I've ever seen. But no, hats off, gentlemen. Clinton asks, does the Iowa defense have better hands than the Iowa receivers? That, I mean, Iowa's defense has good hands, don't get me wrong, but, I mean, we saw some dynamite catches. Some drops, too, but we also saw quite a few drops from Maryland's receivers, more than Iowa's, I would venture a guess. And that over-the-shoulder catch by Chaz Jones, I mean, you're an adult. You're in your 20s. You can't go by Charlie. Yes. Pat Vent, Chicago Pre-Med. The fighting tribesmen of Chicago Pre-Med. They could call themselves tribesmen back then. It was a different era. Just a powerhouse. Yeah, they were number 13 in the UPI poll, behind the I believe they were behind the Indians, behind the Braves, behind the Ruthless Savages, all sorts of teams that existed in the 19 teens and not anymore. Again, it's a different era. Hi, Pat. Pat Vint, also go IowaAwesome.com, and frankly, the David Letterman to my Norm Macdonald. So good to see you, buddy. And okay, the post game video, the locker room celebration. We'll retweet that celebration when we get to it later tonight from the Iowa Sports Review Twitter account. So make sure to follow us there while you're at it. It's another way for us to tell you when we're going live, what's going on, everything like that. So it's just IA Sports Review. IA, few people know this, is the postal code for the state of Iowa. How about that? Anyway, IA Sports Review. Go ahead and follow us there. And once again, since it is, what time is it? It's past midnight. Oh, it's past midnight. Okay. But while you're here, and this is the first thing that you're doing on Saturday morning, go ahead and give us a little like, give us a little subscribe, and help grow this community, and send the message to YouTube that we're all Hawkeye fans here, and all Hawkeye fans want to do is talk after the game. So yeah, go ahead and do that, and turn on your notifications, and it's another way for you to find out when our shows are coming up next. And we're really setting up some cool stuff. I'm super excited. We had mentioned earlier Chuck Long, as in that Chuck Long. We'll be talking with him later on this month now. It is spooky season. It is October. And we're working on some other really special guests too. And hopefully we'll be able to announce those shortly. Yeah, and DW, at least our backup quarterback's been throwing any picks. Yeah, and boy, as far as our backups go, I can see why they're excited about Padilla. I can see why they say, he can make some throws that nobody else can make. But he was 1 for 6. And one of those was a drop on, a really, really challenging throw. But he wasn't running the offense the way that Petrus did. And yes, it's very, very funny that Iowa also picked off Maryland's backup quarterback. And nearly took it to the house. And as a friend of mine texted me, pick number 6 was almost a pick 6. That would have been fun. Would have been fun for the kids. Would have been fun. Yeah, and yeah, man, Joe, again, best news of the night. Seriously, our community is growing by one, at the very least in 9 months' time. And at the end of the day, isn't sports something that you want to share with your kids? It's a cultural thing. As much as it's fun to yell at quarterbacks and cheer for touchdowns and boo the evil referees who are always on the other team's side. And that's true. It's documented that every other team pays the referees to be mean to Iowa. It's just facts. But it's also about who's sitting on the couch next to you or sitting on the in the seat next to you at the stadium, and watching somebody grow up and learn to love the same team that you did is a gift that means a whole heck of a lot more than a jersey on the wall or this autograph card or whatever. So again, super stoked for you. Hopefully good health to the missus and the upcoming years. So thank you. Sincerely from the bottom of my heart, thanks for sharing that with us. And okay, so at the very least, DW brings up that that wasn't the only spinning penalty last week. It's a thing that officials have decided can't happen anymore. At least there's a little bit of consistency there, I guess. But at the same time, this is football. You should be excited about a big gain or scoring a touchdown. Show me whose feelings are hurt by seeing an opponent spin a football. Like if that's what's going to set you off, if that's a taunt, if that's outside the bounds of sportsmanship, then like don't play football or play it on your Madden or whatever. This competition happens at such a breakneck speed with physical stakes unlike you and I can imagine. And no, playing a D3 doesn't count. I would know. And there's so much on the line for these guys. Every play. And tens of thousands of fans cheering or booing or this and that, that if you're not even allowed to get so caught up in the moment that you spin the football, what kind of sport is this? Yeah. So, okay. The rule is dumb. So we can agree that the rule is dumb and not just the fact that the flag was thrown was dumb. I really hope that Ferentz, puts a little bit of pressure on the officials to say, let these kids play ball. Right? What are we doing here otherwise? I don't get it. Gosh darn it. It's a UTI poll. Oh yeah, you are allowed to ask that. It's after midnight. It's Big Ten After Dark, baby. It was the UTI poll, and I believe the pollster was Ron Mexico. Only real heads get that. And yeah, Jones put the beating on the Turtles. Too bad his name isn't Casey. That is an excellent poll. Oh boy, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've gone direct. I want to show for the record. I just want this on record. We went straight from a urinary tract infection joke to a 1980s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles obscure reference in seconds. This is a celebration. It's a celebration. Oh man. And yep, at the end of the day, 5-0. Nothing you can say, nothing you can take away from that. It's 5-0, baby. And Iowa is rolling. So, all right. I believe it's past some of our bedtimes. Past my bedtime. Past mine. I'm old. So, thanks for joining us, everybody. I'll ask one more time, just because it helps us grow the community. But if you enjoyed what you saw here, I really hope you did. And first of all, thank you. But if you did enjoy it, go ahead and click like. Go ahead and jam that subscribe button. Maybe pick it off and run it back into the end zone, as we do at Ball Hawk U. And turn on your notifications and, get a little bell thing happening whenever we're about to go live again. And thanks for joining us. All of this is fun because of all of you. Otherwise, I'd just be like staring into a screen and talking to myself for an hour. And if I wanted to do that, I'd just like play NCAA football on the PlayStation and pretend to be an announcer. Not that I didn't do that for decades of my life or anything like that. It's about all of you guys. And it's at the very least, it's great to see all your hot takes, all your fun stuff sending my way. And it's just great to be a Hawkeye, isn't it? Great to be a Hawkeye. So with that, I am Adam Jacobi of GoIowaAwesome.com. Thank you for joining us. Go Iowa Awesome. Go Hawks. Good night.